Welcome to Common Sense Investing. My name is Cameron, and another week talking about some news in microcap stocks, or I hope to anyway. I'm going to make sure my audio is working, video is working, that everybody can hear me. Seems like it is, at least to start. You never know by the middle of this thing, but welcome. Lots to talk about this week. I want to talk about more about specific stocks and not the macroeconomics. Macroeconomics have been dominating the market for microcaps recently, right? January hit for about 5 or 6 days. We had all the year-to-date bros popping up. You know, by January 6th, January 7th, everybody was showing off their year-to-date performance on their portfolio. That has gone away. It's been a not terrible year, a volatile year. And we have to look at it as volatile opportunity. There's opportunity in the volatility of some of the stocks that we're looking at. At least that's how I try to stay positive. So we are going to take a look at some of that today. Hello. Hopefully everything is working. You could hear me, you could see me, and I can move forward with my presentation. As normal, I have a presentation to give everybody here. Feel free to ask questions, chat, heckle me, whatever you want to do. And then at the end of my live stream, I will kind of get to any questions that I missed during the middle of it. But yeah, just talking about some news and see what happens. See what stocks are looking good right now. As usual, not a financial advisor, definitely not your financial advisor. I don't just say this as a disclaimer. I really mean it. I don't know you, your experience level, how much capital you're working with, or anything else. Created this channel so I could talk about microcap stocks. You know, help newer investors learn how to discover microcap stocks and have a good place for experienced investors to bounce some ideas off. That's why I'm here. That's the only reason that I am here talking on this channel and giving this live stream. So a little bit, there we go, getting heckled already. Yeah, I got heckled on my last live stream quite a bit. I'm trying to figure out how to block people, so I'll let Malachite stay for now though. And this is what we've been seeing, right? We get a bull market for a day, maybe two, and then Donald Trump says something, tweets something. We get something at 2 in the morning talking about tariffs or Super Bowl. He did a interview before the Super Bowl, and now all of a sudden we have tariffs on steel. So this is just our life right now in microcap stocks in 2025. And I mean volatile, right? We got some stocks up 26%. This is the year-to-date column, right? You know, 22%, 26%. We've got some winners. I can't really say that it's, you know, a bad year. There are some winners through here, but there's also some losers. Of course, you know, pretty tiny stock for Evome Medical, but it's definitely not like 2024, right? If I pull up and look, there's a lot of year left to go. Don't put me into that year-to-date bro section space. There's a lot of year left to go, but these are my top 4 videos that I made at the start of the year. The nano caps are doing absolutely terrible. So what we're seeing is some of the microcap stocks that I listed off are doing okay. Some of them are getting some institutional support. At least that's what I think is happening with NTG Clarity Networks. But some of these nano caps are just being left to dry. And right now, big reason for that is we are between Q3 and Q4, in between earnings. People get bored. People don't like investing in speculative smaller stocks when we got Donald Trump running around talking about tariffs and nobody knows if there's a bull market or a bear market. So I would suggest this is pretty normal right now, nothing to be worried about. It is a stock picker's market right now. If you get the good stocks, you're going to make money. If you get some of the bad stocks, you could be waiting for a while, or you could be thinking about some stop loss. But for me, it's pretty normal. Once we get, you know, a more concrete market, if we go on another bull run, I do think that a lot of these nano caps are going to recover. You know, not all of them. That's not the way stock picking works. I'm not going to sit here and say all 5 of these nano caps are going to recover, but I think it's going to look more like this, where, you know, 2 or 3 of them are going to do quite well. It's just not the market for it. So let's talk about some of these stocks. Yeah, the yellow man, boy, he looks like a real life Simpson. Kraken Robotics. People give me shit for not talking about Kraken Robotics enough anymore. This was basically my, I don't know what you'd call it, spearhead stock, figurehead stock. This was the stock that I basically grew my channel on, right? I was covering it a lot when it was 30 cents. It went up recently to $3, basically a 10 bagger. It's now down to the $2.50 level. I don't talk about it much, and I warn people that I wouldn't talk about it much because it's gone up so much in share price, but also because we don't get a lot of information from Kraken Robotics anymore. It's not really a retail investor's stock. It is now heavily owned by institutions. Kraken is talking with the institutions, and they don't give us poor little retail investors any information. So basically, it's, be quiet, wait and be patient, and you're either bullish on Kraken Robotics or you're not, right? And a big reason what people are still waiting for here, nothing's really changed on the investing thesis, right? You can go find this article from Deep Sale Capital talking about why this person was bullish on Kraken Robotics. It was a very well-written article that summarized a bunch of research. And it was, basically they have a rare product monopoly in a niche and burgeoning underwater AUV market. And a lot of that was based on a partnership with Anduril. And Deep Sale Capital, if you remember, gave two different valuations for Kraken Robotics based on with Anduril. This one here, with Anduril, and then without Anduril. And it's interesting because the downside risk at the time for Kraken Robotics share price was $2.10. So it's already above its downside risk. But basically what people are talking about with Kraken Robotics still, because there's still so much institutional buying, a lot of people are talking, well, what do they know that we don't? Because we don't know much about Kraken Robotics right now. And I mean, the upside share price for 2026 that Deep Sale Capital was talking about was, base case of around $5.74. Right now, Kraken Robotics is sitting somewhere in the 250s. So if you're an investor, a shareholder of Kraken Robotics right now, and you're buying, basically you believe in this Deep Sale Capital thesis. And if you don't believe in this Deep Sale Capital thesis, then you've probably sold or heavily trimmed and you're kind of moving on. I mean, that's really all there is to Kraken Robotics right now, right? Maxwell Hills points out on X recently, institutions, large buy, 1.6 million volume from TD to TD. This was a block trade, $2.65. So this was a huge trade back on February 5th. So recently, as of 5 days ago, institutions were still buying heavily in Kraken Robotics, $2.65. So I think a lot of people are basically looking at Kraken and saying, we're kind of thinking it's probably coming out close to here. But I mean, I can't really sit here and talk about Kraken as far as like earnings. I mean, do I really care? Am I going to sit here and if, revenue for the next quarter is 18 million, am I going to be pissed off? If it's 22 million, am I going to be happy? If it's 25 million, am I good? Really have kind of lost the plot here for their earnings. Essentially, they're in a little bit of a bubble, and they're in a little bit of a bubble because of this Anduril partnership. And that's what we're hoping for. The share price is set up for gigantic news for some huge military contract. It's set up for gigantic news that they're going to get this battery facility built for Anduril and deliver the $600 million in batteries over the next X number of years, right? That's what people are waiting for with the Kraken Robotics, and that's why I don't talk about it as much. There's just not a lot of news. We'll get it when we get it. Still love Kraken Robotics, just not as much to talk about. Little bit more to talk about here with Enterprise Group. Isn't that lovely? Some of these stocks, in tax loss season here, this was middle of December. I think it was about, this is Canadian prices. I'm Canadian. I think it was about $1.85, $1.84, something like that. Enterprise Group was selling for. There's always so much opportunity, in some of these stocks. And I hear it over and over and over again. And it's always right. When you get Paul Andriola or Ian Castle or any of these other microcap investors, larger platforms talking about, don't worry about missing out on a stock because they always give you an opportunity to buy back in. And you just look here with Enterprise Group, how they gave shareholders that opportunity, not once, but probably twice, right? Whether you wanted to dollar cost average up, you're already low price in Kraken Robotics because I started covering it around 40 cents, or whether you thought you missed out at this price up here. And you'd waited patiently and took some opportunity here. Back up to $2.48. What's causing that? I mean, this one's been pretty easy to predict, right? Their third quarter of 2024, that was a little bit of a surprise, but not really. Basically, the oil and gas sector took a nap for the summer, right? That this enterprise group, very heavily reliant on oil and gas in Western Canada, specifically Alberta. If that industry flounders, then Enterprise Group is going to struggle. But it's not floundering right now. It's doing pretty good according to the drilling data that I could find. And unfortunately, what happened though, a lot of forest fires, a lot of heat, a lot of dust, and oil and gas decided to take the summer off instead of fighting forest fires all summer. And they had kind of not a great third quarter. That's why it went down to about $1.85 or whatever it was. However, it started rebounding back. Thank you, BNN. It's not just Jordan Zinberg. I know Enterprise Group is one of Jordan Zinberg's from, Bedford Park Capital, who likes Enterprise Group and is always talking about them on BNN. It was also featured by Jesse Gamble on BNN. So it's now featured twice on BNN Bloomberg. And Jesse mentioned Zedcor, another great company, great stock there, Enterprise Group, and then Cipher Pharma, which I make fun of every once in a while. So share price has been going up. The main thing we're looking at now is earnings season. We're in a really slow time. So it's nice to see share price going up basically on no news. Enterprise Group is actually probably an early reporter here. I was looking at some of their annual MD&As, right? March 7th, March 20th, March 15th. A lot of the stocks that I cover right now have their earnings in April. So Enterprise Group is going to be an early reporter, and their next earnings is probably coming up in a month and a week, somewhere around that. So it's coming. We have a little bit of a boring time here with Enterprise Group, but really all we're looking for in their earnings is hopefully, we're coming into what should be a busy quarter for them. And just buy more EPP systems, rent them out. Buy some more, rent some more out, right? That's all we're looking for. DGNX. No, never heard of it. 52 level speculative Hong Kong stock. No, sorry. I have no idea. Never heard of it before. I actually don't have any Hong Kong stocks on my channel. I don't think. Not a single one. But I have this great stock right here. McCoy Global. $2.94. Finally. It's been sitting, like I've been saying, there's some pretty good opportunity, the same as Enterprise Group. It went down to about $2.64 recently. Compared to Enterprise Group, it's somewhat in the same sector. Enterprise Group sells generators and heaters to the oil and gas industry in Western Canada. They've had quite a bit of success, and their market cap now is up to about 195 million or something like that, right? So McCoy Global, even though it's trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the TSX, pretty small market cap here of only 79 million. So if they succeed, there's potential of this to go higher, being such a small company. And they're up to about $2.94. But people are getting frustrated with them. They really haven't done anything since about October. Now, they're facing some of the problems that Enterprise Group had, is their earnings was right around here somewhere. It drove the share price down because they're in oil and gas. They're an oil and gas technology company where they sell equipment for the drilling of oil rigs, right? So drilling and casing equipment for oil rigs. So they're also in the oil industry. They're more diversified. They're selling to the Middle East. They're selling to the United States. They're selling to Brazil. But they also had kind of a slow third quarter, and it really drove the share price down. People were pretty disappointed because this was just about up at $4, and now we're sitting at below the $3 level. But I don't think this stock is getting quite as much love as it should. Right, as you can see, this third quarter from 2024 earnings per share, it went from 7 cents last year down to 2 cents this year. So that was pretty disappointing for people. It seemed like the oil and gas industry just across the board just took a nap, and it was quite interesting to see. But what people are missing out on, they're putting the final touches on this new building at our manufacturing facility in Broussard. Louisiana, United States. This building will be dedicated to provide that, are part of blah, blah, blah. Basically, new equipment, new facility, probably expanded facility. So it seems like McCoy Global is ramping up manufacturing in the United States. So hopefully not a tariff concern for any reason, unless they buy a little bit of steel for their products, right? But creating some manufacturing capacity seems quite bullish for a little $79 million market cap stock. And this is another one, the same as Enterprise Group, March 14th, March 10th, March 4th, March 17th. So probably middle of March, they're going to be releasing earnings. When a lot of my stocks don't report until April, this is an early reporter. So we're only about a month away from McCoy Global's full year earnings. I'm pretty excited about that one, right? A little bit different. This is a US stock, Mind Technology. I introduced it right around there at about $3.50. It's been a stunner. It's closed today at $9.44, and people are still asking about it because typically what you see is when a stock goes up, especially when it goes up this quickly, is it a pump and dump? What's going on? Is it overpriced? If it's in a bubble? And I mean, for people that look at valuation or understand valuation, basically Mind Technology at this price today, only up to about 1.6x. And this is annualized, their Q3 earnings annualized. So Q3 times by 4, basically. This is the valuation from that 1.6 times price to sale. They're not even quite up to 15 P to E yet. So I wouldn't say they're in a bubble or anything. This isn't a pump and dump. This is simply a stock that's catching up to its valuation. The real question here is how good then can their future earnings be, and what should this P to E be? Because this is a NASDAQ traded stock. This isn't on the TSX Venture. This isn't OTC or anything. This is a NASDAQ capital market stock trading for only less than 15 P to E. Last quarter annualized EV to EBITDA 9.6. So even though it's gone up significantly, it's still on my list. Still love Mind Technology, and I think it's still relatively fairly valued. It's definitely not overpriced by any measure, right? Though it's volatile, it's still a tiny company. I think it's up to about 75 million US market cap last time I checked. And for people, I always say this, for people that love Kraken Robotics, go check out Mind Technology. You get a little bit of diversity. You don't have to worry about tariffs. But the one thing that I love is that this was actually the kind of company that I was looking for when I was looking at Kraken Robotics. Before Kraken Robotics hit it big with batteries and Anduril, this is the company doing marine seismic work, anti-submarine warfare, maritime security. So a lot of similar things. Their actual products for marine seismic are probably a little better than Kraken's. They just don't have the batteries and some of the other technology that Kraken Robotics has. So not quite as exciting, but a lot cheaper and American, right? So Mind Technology's doing pretty well. NTG Clarity Networks, winner just keeps on winning. And at some point, I'll make a video on NTG Clarity Networks talking about, trading versus investing. Trading, people that were buying, selling, and the profits that people made with this stock versus the people that invested in this stock, never sold, and maybe bought on the dip. It's absolutely fascinating because this is one of those rare stocks where you had winners in both situations. I know it was originally introduced by several people, myself, Wolf of Oakville, at 15, 20 cents. And then we saw, profit taking down around 40 cents. And now it's at, $2. And I know a lot of people are kicking themselves, but don't forget, just because you sell a stock doesn't mean you can't ever rebuy it again in your entire life. We do have the option. You could actually sell a stock, and guess what? You can rebuy it 30 seconds later if you really want to, right? And this is one of those stocks where it ran up significantly. It was just about at $2. It went to about $1.95, and they screwed up somewhat. So high risk company still hadn't built a lot of trust with investors yet. They announced this brokered life offering for up to $6 million. That was a lot of money for a small company. I think they even kind of acknowledged that it was probably too large of a financing. It was also a life offering, so it didn't create a lot of trust in investors. Life offerings are quite popular now. I actually don't have a huge problem with them, but I know a lot of old school investors that simply don't like the life offerings. And because of that, what happened with this amount is it really just sucked all the buying pressure out of the share price, because anybody who wanted shares of NTG Clarity Networks could buy it in the life offering. Why go buy it on the open market when you can go get a warrant, right? So that dried up the share price for a while. It was concerning. When it hit this point, I thought, we're kind of at a crossroads. Either they're going to get some bad news and this one's going to break through and there's going to be trouble, or more likely, because what's happening with this company is, I was saying in March, they're probably going to release an outlook for 2025. In April, they released Q4 earnings and full year earnings. And then in May, they're going to release Q1 earnings. So really the bull season for NTG Clarity Networks, it's coming up. We're only a couple months away from their bull season, and people were selling off on this stock. So I thought, the risk reward here, which is what we're always looking for, it's always a question of risk reward, how much you're willing to bet, how much you can afford to lose. These are microcap stocks. I don't want anybody going out there and losing their college money, right? High risk. This easily could have gone down just like this with some bad news, but the risk reward on NTG Clarity Networks was pretty good. What you'll see from this morning, this is just this morning. This isn't even the whole day. There could have been more, but I took this at about 2 hours after the market opened, and NTG Clarity Networks already had, 100,000 share buy, 50,000 share buy, 40,000 share buy. That is huge for a tiny little microcap stock, right? Now, one of the things you get, because I do have a Patreon account, I kind of saw this coming. So you could see some of my comments from January 30th here. So not that long ago, 10, 11 days ago. So I've noticed, I've been tracking this, and actually NTG Clarity's been getting some block trades, 1 or 2 block trades just about every day, larger buys, right? So obviously I wasn't able to see that there was going to be, 200,000 buys in about 10 minutes. That's hard to predict. But I did notice that it was starting to get a little bit more institutional interest, right? And so congratulations to NTG Clarity Networks. Still arguably cheap, although it's still a company operating in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And so it might always be a little bit cheap for that reason. So let's see. You've been a long time since I made a live stream. You do watch my videos offline. Thank you. What is a life offering? There's no holding on the warrants. So basically, if you buy a life offering, it's considered weak because there's the people that buy it and they get given a warrant. There's no hold on it. You don't have to hold that warrant for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. You can literally go participate in a life offering and sell the warrants whenever you get them, right? So it causes a drag on the share price. A lot of the times, life offerings also, it's a financing, right? The company is trying to simplify this a little bit. The company is getting money by selling blocks of shares to shareholders. And with other financing, sometimes those blocks of shares can only be sold to large accredited investors, and those accredited investors have to hold on to their warrants, which is a free share they basically get for a specific period of time, right? That's the standard. That's a decent financing. With the life offering, what it is a lot of the times is it doesn't have to be accredited investors, could be anybody. Any retail investor can email the company and participate in the life offering. You get a warrant and you could sell it at any time. So it's considered a little bit weaker. Can you consider a deep dive video on California Nano? I'll consider making another video on them. If you've noticed, I haven't done a ton of deep dive videos. I'm not really doing them on my channel because I don't get a lot of viewership, to be quite honest with you. If I do an hour-long video on one stock, people fall asleep. People don't like it. So, I mean, it is a transition into what I'm showing you next, where if you want my deep dive videos, I just did a 2-hour live stream on my Patreon account yesterday talking about all these stocks in more detail, right? This is where I do my deeper dives. This is where I do more research. This is where you get access to all my stocks, all my research before they ever hit YouTube, right? They're on my Patreon account. And so you join up. It's a Patreon Discord. If you're new to Discord, I've got an introductory video. But this is where I put my deep dives. This is where I put all my research. This is where we talk stocks every day. I'm there every morning. I'm there every evening. You can go find my Patreon Discord. I've been upgrading my website. One of the things I've now got on my website, as promised, is for new investors. I have a list of some of the best microcap investors to follow. I think one of the hard things for new investors when you join this space is you don't really know who's scamming you, who's telling the truth, or who's a good investor. So I've started a list for who I think are good microcap investors to follow. And then, a little less on the fun side, but I've also stolen the list from the Plain Bagel, the video talking about paid promotion stocks and some channels and people to kind of avoid. And I've also got that list on my website. So go check that out at www.commonsenseinvesting.ca. If you would like to be on this list, please reach out and let me know, right? But I'm building this list, small cap discoveries, all the places you could find the Microcap Club, Keystone, Stocks and Stones, Ryan Telford, Wolf of Oakville, right? All the good microcap investors. I'm going to have links to all their social media. So as a new investor, you should be able to just come to my website, click, and basically join up with kind of all the best investors. Some of them have paid content, but every one of these investors also has free content. So for new investors, it's a great place to start. NTG Clarity might be related to the decision of Salesforce to invest heavily in Saudi Arabia. Love it. It's, that's about the fifth rumor I've heard about why NTG Clarity Networks popped up in share price today. Everybody's got a different take. NTG Clarity presented at some World Economic Forum or something this past weekend. That could have been it. I've also heard Keystone Financial was presenting at another conference somewhere, and Keystone Financial talked about NTG Clarity Networks. Now you tell me there's been all these rumors about why share price is going to go up. I mean, for me, the main thing is with NTG Clarity, I talk about it, is it's hard to day trade some of these stocks. I don't know how people do it, right? I'm the type of investor that I buy because I see opportunity and I'm willing to hold a couple years. And I don't really have to worry about when the news comes out, as long as it eventually, the good news does come out. And, on these dips, I prefer holding and just buying the dip. But that's kind of my investing strategy for some of these stocks. And I talk about that more in my Patreon account, right? I don't like talking about it public too much because I don't want to start giving financial advice. Kraken Robotics still looking good. It's not falling down. It's all a matter of what institutions want to do next with it, right? And we're really at their mercy. And that's a good lead in, because speaking about being at someone's mercy, how about ADF Group? I know this is really tiny. I should try to make these names a little bit bigger. This is ADF Group, drx.to. This is their share price since June 13th, 2024. Great little company, steel fabrication structures. This was a FinTwit favorite up until June 13th, 2024. This share price is up over $20. And because of Trump tariffs on steel, which he announced at the Super Bowl of all places, back down again today. I think it hit did it hit below $8 again? I know it hit below $8 here on the last tariff threat. And I think it got to at least 8.05 Canadian today. I'm not sure if it dropped below $8. Absolute shit show. I'm not going to talk about it anymore, right? This is the cheapest good stock in Canada, probably, and it just keeps getting kicked in the teeth, as does its shareholders. And I mean, shout out here to M Capital, the mini capital here on Twitter, because I'm not sure if this is a newer person with ADF Group, but I always love it when new people discover ADF Group, because we've all been talking about this, right? If you're an investor and you come across ADF Group for the first time and you see this P to E, price to earnings, of less than 5, for a company that's growing and producing cash and buying back their own shares, it's just a no-brainer to go research it, right? And so I love finding, new people discovering the story, looking at this is their trailing P/E going from, 8 all the way up to almost 13. And then it's just been rifling downwards. And if you go check out their financial fundamentals, they're pretty good. I mean, flat a little bit, sure, but not like, cratering down. So ADF Group is frustrating, and I don't want to talk about it any more than that. There's better things to talk about right now, right? And that's hash, simply solventless concentrates. Cannabis is starting to make a little bit of a comeback, starting to get noticed again. People are starting to buy it again. And simply solventless concentrates, people have been a little bit asleep on this one for a while. This was October 1st of 2024. Hit about, 72, 73 cents. People thought it was going to the moon. And since that time, it's been volatile. And here we are in February of 2025, and it's sitting at the same price. The difference is, the volatility down as people execute warrants and everything else versus, seems to be trending up right now. So this is going to be a volatile stock because of everything that they're doing, everything that they're buying, all the warrants, all the share dilution. You got to kind of go look at the normalized earnings. But I mean, this is one of the most active companies I've seen in a while. And basically, it looks to me like it's starting to consolidate here in the low 70s. And I wonder when its time is to get a little NTG-like bump up, right? I'm kind of getting the sense that Simply Solventless is starting to feel a little bit like NTG did, a couple weeks ago, right? So, I mean, they announced their oversubscription. So a lot of people interested in this one still oversubscribed on their previously announced convertible debenture financing for $6 million. And then they expected to close on February 7th, which was 3 days ago. So closing more M&A and financing done and oversubscribed. So don't sleep on this one. I think it's got a lot of potential here left in 2025, especially, if it's going to be a stock picker's market. And we're subject to volatility thanks to Donald Trump, the United States, and everything else. I think the stocks that really put people to sleep too much are going to trickle down, are going to be volatile down. I think there is an advantage for a company like Simply Solventless that can keep people excited, keep shareholders excited, keep people interested. A company that's going to have a press release every 2, 3, 4 weeks to keep eyeballs on them. I think that has a significant advantage in 2025. Let's see. Yeah, I've had a lot of, I would not promote DRX to people if I were you. They have shady management. People will probably lose money if they invest on them. Sinister, you from Quebec. It is interesting to me, and I don't take it lightly, that with DRX, ADF Group, there's no joke if you go back to their share price, and I've talked about this. Two of the large declines in their share price over this time has been they seem to have lost a lot of their investors from their hometown or home province in Quebec, Canada, and they seem to have lost trust of a lot of their larger shareholders, their larger investors. So there's definitely a point to Sinister's comment. Just because something is cheap, usually there's a reason why it's cheap. And I have brought up the question of, is it necessarily cheap completely because of Trump's tariffs? Or is it also partially because, some of their insiders seem to have lost a little bit of faith in the company? And that happens. What I don't agree with is when people say that the company's shady because management actually sold shares at $16.99, and that pissed a lot of people off. I don't agree with that. That really doesn't upset me at all. I think those were management's shares to sell. They're well within their right to sell shares at that price. I think it was a smart thing to do, and I don't fault them for that at all. But yeah, there's always risks around every company, and that's one of the things that I've heard about ADF Group repeatedly, especially from people from Quebec. So I don't want to ignore that. Another company you can't ignore with another, bridge line from stock to stock is Gatekeeper Systems. This is one of these ones that I could talk about. Don't panic. Why do people panic? You look at Gatekeeper Systems, and if you hadn't known what happened over the past 2 to 3, 4 months with Gatekeeper Systems, you'd think this is a really nice looking stock. 59 cents Canadian today, up 13% today. You know, green, 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 green. The company just got awarded a contract, a pilot contract, mind you, only $460,000. So not a large amount of money, but still it is an entry into the huge, gigantic Toronto Transit Commission. Toronto, this is what the city that people have been wanting Gatekeeper Systems to enter in for 2 or 3 or 4 years now. Everybody's talking about, when are you going to get into Toronto? They finally do. It's only $460,000, but if this works out, there's a lot more money to come. And this comes in wake of basically a lot of articles coming out. Transport Canada mandates perimeter visibility cameras on school buses. All school buses built after November 1st, 2027 will need a series of cameras aimed at enhancing visibility for school bus drivers. So this isn't a camera. This isn't a dinky little security system. This is basically mandatory that starting late November 2027, every school bus made in Canada is going to need a company like Gatekeeper. Might not be Gatekeeper, but at least a lot of contracts to bid on. This is an experienced company in the space, and if this works out, they're building trust with the city of Toronto. If this works out, that's huge, because Toronto talks to other cities. They could put that on their resume and could be pretty big for Gatekeeper Systems. So everything's looking pretty good. It wasn't recently, right? Earnings. This was earnings here for Gatekeeper Systems. People are not happy. The company has been spending money for growth, and they weren't getting growth yet. That's a completely normal cycle in a microcaps kind of phase, right? They spend money for growth. It takes a while for that growth to show up. But people didn't like it because when they were spending money for growth, their earnings per share dropped on these earnings, and share price dropped because of that. That was their Q4 and full year earnings. And then they report Q1 and into 2025, and it was the same thing, same disappointment, where they're still spending for growth and earnings per share dropped on these earnings. It dropped so far. This was a stock that was at 84, 85 cents not too long ago, Gatekeeper Systems, dropped to 30 cents. On that bad day where Donald Trump threatened tariffs 25% across the board on Canada, Gatekeeper Systems, somebody bought this stock for 30 cents. And it wasn't small either. That was a $20,000 bid, right? $20,000 into Gatekeeper at 30 cents, $40,000 into Gatekeeper at 40 cents, and all the retail investors were panic selling. So typically I'm a long-term investor. I don't really panic on one earnings here or there being lumpy or spending money for growth. And then just getting impatient because that growth isn't showing up in 3 months. I mean, you have to give these companies some time, right? And congratulations, because the growth seems to have been working. A lot of that money must have been spent, hopefully, to get this contract, get some eyeballs on them, all the trade shows they've been going to. Absolutely stunningly good contract for Gatekeeper Systems. Any chance of an interview for the OmniLight CEO? Yeah, I like David. I talked to David. I would like to call him again. I don't know how many interviews I'm doing on this channel this year. Interviews are very difficult to do. And if I do interviews, if I decide to go in that direction, I think I'm going to start a new channel, like have a common sense investing interview channel or something like that. One of the things I have trouble with on YouTube is when you make videos of 2 different types, it crushes your views. I'll get 2,000 views on one video, and then the next video, a long form interview, doesn't do very well. The other thing is interviews are hard to do. You have to schedule them. I have to take time off my actual career and do the interviews. So I'm thinking about it. I'll consider it. But yeah, I want to give David a call and see what's going on. I really like OmniLight. I think they're on my presentation here today, though I'm not 100% sure about that. But yeah, I love OmniLight. They're my number 1 nano cap right now. Not my number 1 nano cap right now. Matrix Corporation down to 21 cents. And I think the company took pity on me. This one's got a story as well, and I'm not sure if I have it up here. No, basically, Matrix went up to, up here, 55 cents, roughly 50 cents. And then they did another offering and it absolutely crashed the share price. And here we are today. I think I have another slide on them somewhere. I just missed it. So let me see. I'll just have to skip them because I know I have more to say about Matrix, but I don't remember what that is right now. Sorry. But they are down to 21 cents. The real question is where they go in the future. Their CEO just released a statement. The tariffs are not going to affect them. They are a Canadian company. They buy cement mix in Canada, and they don't have a lot of work in the United States right now. So they're not tariff exposed. They're basically at, 52-week low, at a low. They haven't been this low in a long time since I started covering them probably 2.5 years ago. And they deserved it. They had a bad year, but I'm curious to see where they can go in 2025. And I'll have to bring up some better slides on them next live stream. Simply Better Brands. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this one. $1.04. This is on my top stocks list. Don't get me wrong. I like the company, but I do like poking fun at the company a little bit, right? It's been very successful, right? From 25 cents to over $1. So when I'm poking fun, keep in mind, still a good stock. Don't everybody snap on me, right? But, one of the problems this stock is having hasn't moved for a while. And what happens is when you announce all these press releases, all these launchings of TrueBar, because basically Simply Better Brands is a one product stock right now. They're basically counting on TrueBar, the glorified candy bar that calls itself a protein bar. And they need these to sell everywhere. And in the old days, they'd release that TrueBar would be, released in new stores and that would drive the share price up. That's not working anymore. So they did announce the appointment of an accomplished marketing senior executive for the company. That should help. They're marketing the stock, they're marketing the product, and that should have some forward buying pressure, hopefully for Simply Better Brands. This was one of the stocks I think any CanSlim investors should really take a look at, right? It's got strength in its category. A lot of people like these kind of granola bar, candy bar, protein bar type space. They're looking at a buyout. And I mean, the share price has just been strong for a long time. So for a CanSlim type investor, modified CanSlim method, it's a good option. But I do worry about the weakness in share price recently until I finally figured out why Simply Better Brands has started to go down recently. And that's because, RFK Jr. is coming for him, right? I go to Costco and I buy this protein bar. This is Lair Bar. 3 ingredients, dates, peanuts, and salt. It's delicious. I love it. This is their peanut flavor. Only 3 ingredients. Same price or cheaper than this daydreaming about donuts. And I've been bugging people. I've been over and over. Not a protein bar. Stop calling it a protein bar. It's a candy bar. It's a candy bar. It's not a protein bar. And RFK Jr. is coming for you, right? Make America healthy again. This is a tapioca fiber candy bar. And so great stock. Don't like the product. That's okay. You don't need to always like the product. This is a product that I like, though. Covalon. Go take a look at Covalon. This is, I don't know if there's not a lot of stocks out there where I could show my wife their investor deck and by the end of it, she'd be in tears, right? This is a company that produces bandages for hospitals, for patients in the worst need of care as far as burns and, acid burns and major wounds and surgeries. They produce hospital bandages, right? And their investor deck is just hard to watch. It's a great pitch. It really is. And what's been happening is share price has been trickling down, but it's recently stabilized. They have earnings coming up, but what's happened is a lot of these companies, I think it's brilliant, have been using the tariffs as an excuse to kind of give an update on the company itself. So we saw that recently from Covalon, right on the day when Trump was supposed to put tariffs on Canada and then it fell through and there was no tariffs. Covalon still put forth the effort to communicate with their shareholders and talk to us about, what's going on with the company, and I thought that was pretty good. And a lot of other companies have followed Covalon's suit recently. I think it was today. Atlas Engineered Products, same thing, right? Update on operations, kind of using the tariff exposure to give people just a quick update on how the company is going. I think it's brilliant, right? You kind of kill 2 or 3 birds with one stone. So Atlas Engineered Products, same thing as Covalon. It actually broke below $1 for the first time I've seen in a while. It was trading for about 99 cents last week, and now it's at about $1.05. I think is where it closed out the day. And that's just communication with shareholders, updating shareholders so people aren't panic selling, right? Right now, when there's a bear market, there's a lot of volatility. There's a lot of people worried. A lot of people will take cash. They'll just sell out of their stocks. They'll trim, they'll sell, whatever they need to do to reduce their risk. And so it's good that companies are doing that. This was my other Symmetric side that got lost down here. And they're doing the same thing, though, as AAP and Covalon. Yeah, they're announcing $5.8 million in new contract awards, but they're also giving their corporate update, talking about how they're not very exposed to tariffs, as well as they're talking about how they're set up for a great year in 2025, according to their new CEO. So I really hope for the sake of their shareholders that they are. This is good news. They do say Symmetric is saying that they're going to provide now on every earnings, quarterly and annually, they're going to provide their backlog numbers. So that's going to become important with Symmetric. And the thing is, for me, the theory is if they're going to commit to that and they're going to provide backlog numbers moving forward in their earnings, the question I have is, I assume the backlog's okay then? I don't know if I was this company, if I was going to say I'm going to report backlog every 3 months if my backlog sucked. So I mean, a little bit of speculation on my part, but I'm going to assume that their backlog numbers are looking okay. Another one, though, people are forgetting about, same thing. They provided updates on, a few things here, including tariff mitigation strategies. And this is another stock that people have been sleeping on. I'm going to release this video on X pretty soon again. This is my video from back in September on Tornado Global Hydrovacs. They're not actually called Tornado Global Hydrovacs anymore. They're called Tornado Infrastructure Equipment. They changed their name and they announced U.S. expansion plans. I commented about this recently, a little bit negative. A lot of companies, a lot of microcap companies, a lot of Canadian microcap companies, U.S. expansion plans, a lot of money heading south. I know that the tariffs, a lot of people debate whether the tariffs will be effective, whether we even get hit with tariffs on certain things or not, because I know Trump's talking about reciprocal tariffs. But I mean, unfortunately for me, Tornado is one of 4 or 5 or 6 companies that I've seen that are kind of expanding into the United States. Now, right now, the reason that, in my mind, share price has been trickling down is because I think they've produced 1 hydrovac truck in the United States. And what they've announced in Canada this quarter for Q4 is they've sold 88 hydrovac trucks and they've set a record. So, I mean, 1 hydrovac truck right now in the United States won't offset manufacturing in Canada anytime soon. And I mean, this is a company that's heavily exposed to tariffs. So if there are tariffs in Canada, this share price could continue lower because we're talking about, $80,000 to $100,000 hydrovac trucks. I don't necessarily understand how they get around a tariff on those things. That's a lot of money if we're talking 25% tariff on a TGH hydrovac truck. So hopefully no tariffs for this one. And if they don't get tariffs, and if they do report that Q4 of 88, a record 88 produced hydrovac trucks, 320 hydrovac trucks in the year, as well as they have this new Tornado Equipment Finance, which means they're going to lease out and rent out their hydrovac trucks to companies who can't afford to pay this big bill. A lot of catalysts moving forward for Tornado Global or Tornado Infrastructure now. But the tariffs are a holdback, right? If there's no tariffs, if you don't think there's tariffs, great company, great stock, a lot of potential here, and good luck. right? There's a lot of risk there. Now, I almost feel like this one is me kind of losing a bet, although that's the wrong word. I cover a lot of good fundamental companies. I'm typically looking for the best fundamental stocks to put on my channel, but this time I got to put a non-good fundamental stock, because one of the things, I'm looking for companies, revenue trending up, they have earnings or they're close to getting earnings, they have some cash or they're close to being cash positive, maybe their ROIC is trending up, hopefully their valuation's trending up. That's a little bit of a snapshot, or a little bit of not a snapshot in time. I'm looking at more of the CanSlim method if their valuation is trending up. But basically good quality companies, right here, right? Buy good stocks, keep good stocks, right? But this one, I have a competition on my Patreon that we ran at the start of the year, which was the best stocks for 2025. And I'm going to run additional contests throughout the year, shorter 3-month stock picking competitions. But this was a full year where I allowed everybody on my Patreon who wanted to email me in 5 picks for the whole year. You had to hold it for you're allowed 2 trades for the year, but basically you had to pick 5 stocks and you had to think long term. So not necessarily trading. You had to think like me when I make my 5 best stocks for 2025 video. You had to think 12 months out. And so far the winner of that contest is the person who picked XBot. Realbotix Corporation. This is on the TSX Venture Exchange. It's up 7% today. It's sitting at 50 cents. Absolutely exploded for this person. This person is kicking ass on the competition right now. What do? Realbotix Corp develops customizable human-like robots with artificial intelligence integration in Canada. So yes, this is exactly what you think. This is basically the company in Canada, who should be proud of this, I guess, right? Making realistic humanoid robots and relationship-based AI. That is XBot on the TSX Venture Exchange. Now, this company, why would it not make my channel right now? Why haven't I made a video on it? Trailing 12-month, I think they've made $1.2 million in revenue. They've got a $98 million market cap. And I think they lost about 7 cents, negative 7 cents earnings per share over the past 12 months. So money-losing company, highly speculative. But yes, it's gone up like this 1 year, 376%, because they're making AI robot girlfriends. And proud to be Canadian. So good on them. That's all I had. That's everything. Let's see here. Questions, concerns, comments. Now it's time to have discussion if you want. If you're finished here, if you just wanted to see the presentation, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. Helps me get discovered on YouTube. And YouTube isn't doing a good job of that lately. I notice my live streams aren't being promoted very much. So I would appreciate the thumbs up button. But that's the presentation I had, and now I'm kind of open to any questions that people have on any of these companies that I cover, and I'll try to think of something off the top of my head. What about Gatekeeper's news release? I talked about Gatekeeper. Yep. I mean, it's fantastic. I could see why the stock went from 30 cents to 59 cents. They deserve it. I mean, they're finally in Toronto. It's a huge gamble right now because Gatekeeper has been spending money for growth. They weren't getting growth. This is their shot to get growth. If they can hammer that Toronto contract out, that's huge. Because in theory, that could be a SEPTA-like contract, like big money contract. As well as, again, if you have to think long term, right? You have to think into 2029, 2030. If by 2027, video needs to be on all new school buses getting built in Canada, and by 2026, the city of Toronto says Gatekeeper has done a fantastic job installing all these video surveillance systems on all of her transit. I mean, that would be huge for Gatekeeper systems. That would be the type of catalyst that spurs Gatekeeper up into institutional investors and maybe someday not even being a microcap stock. But there's a lot of ifs there, right? That's a lot of things need to happen. They need to do well on the pilot contract. even though they're making no money on it. So, I mean, the next couple of earnings might be rough because it's not like that $460,000 is going to make a huge difference. They have to do well on it. They have to win the larger contract. They have to be able to put Toronto on their resume. If for some reason Gatekeeper doesn't, do well on the pilot contract, then we're talking about another story and it could drop again. So that's the world of microcap stocks. High risk, high reward. You got to kind of weigh it out. But it's great news. It's great news, right? This is their chance. Love the great work as usual. Curious if you looked into BET, some good info on the TSA Discord as of late. So the TSA Discord, I believe, is the Wolf of Oakville's Discord, right? BET, I don't even know what that is. North Star Gaming Holdings. Yeah, I haven't looked at this one yet. $13 million market cap, 6 cents per share. Trailing 12-month, it's going up. Earnings per share, 12 cents loss in the past 12 months. So that's probably why. It's probably the earnings per share is a little bit too low for me to look at it. But North Star Gaming Holdings, I have heard of it before. Ooh, CEO compensation. That's a lot of money to management, but I guess they are making revenue. This is a company that engages in sports betting and online casino gaming businesses in Canada, owns and operates North Star Bets. It rings a bell, but I haven't looked at it recently. I'll take another look. Do I know ISC, Information Services Company? Nope, never heard of them. ISC, I don't even see it popping up on anywhere. Information Services Company. Nope, never heard of them, sorry. And they're not popping up on Yahoo Finance for me. Any thoughts on EPF selling off? Yeah, people taking profits. I mean, that's Everyday People Financial. That's the video that I made recently. Everyday People Financial Company. I mean, this stock in the past year up 77%, but it went quickly. In December, it was at 40 cents, right? That was December 9th. It was at 40 cents, and it went up to $1.01. So, I mean, those are huge gains, and now it's down to 85 cents. So that's a pretty normal little sell-off to drop 15% after going up 150%. The only thing that concerns me is do not forget from my video, there's still a lot of people, and myself included, management's got a lot to prove because there were charges on management that they say that they atoned for, and it was for misleading a previous company. So there are still some concerns about trust around the management of Everyday People Financial. We need to see more earnings come in. They need to slowly build trust back. But I mean, at the end of the day, a company, kind of dropping 15% isn't a huge concern for me. And I guess for people, I could actually go to secondary presentation, right? So that's Everyday People Financial right there. That went from 40 cents right here in December to $1.01, I think is the high, and now it's down at 85 cents. If it drops lower, I'd be concerned. It could be a trust issue with management if it continues to drop lower, right? But right now, I'm not concerned. What's the downside to Avicor Health? Well, zero. What is it? AVCR for Avicor Health? Yeah. Downside is zero. It's for every microcap stock, the downside is zero. I mean, how much you talk about losing trust, right? Or maybe a Payfare-like situation. They lost their largest customer in Canada. Was it Shoppers Drug Mart? That's what caused this crash here. And it was highly speculative. This is one of those stocks where if you go to the anonymous comments boards like CEO.ca, probably still to this day, there was, a comment every minute or two on this stock. This was a tiny little 25 cent nothing Canadian stock. And, there's 100 people a day talking about it in the comments. That's typically not a stock that I like. I still made a video on it because there was potential, and I need to make a video on a company per week. So I like introducing a stock and letting people decide whether or not they like them or not. But I mean, they are expanding into the United Kingdom, into the UK. They're down to 5.5 cents. If that expansion into the UK doesn't go well, And this is a stock that I believe, because they lost their largest contract, is starting to lose money, right? They're going to start going into a negative earnings per share. Right now, they're right at zero, negative one last quarter. So they are losing money. They're eventually going to need financing. And eventually what happens to a company that needs financing and never makes any money is the downside risk is zero. It goes to zero. Not saying it will. I'm just saying what is the downside risk, right? There's a lot of downside. Do you feel bullish on IMP, latest bought deal offering to support upcoming government contracts? Not really, kind of. IMP.to, right? Yeah, Intermap. The recent financing isn't very good, I thought. If you go look at it, it was very good for the people that were buying the new bought deal offering, but it wasn't very good for existing shareholders, and that has me a little bit concerned. Share price for Intermap has run up 237%. If you go look at valuation on this stock, though, it's kind of it's running away with it a little bit, right? Price to sales is 7, about the highest I've ever paid in my entire life for a company that wasn't like a pre-revenue, and I don't even buy pre-revenues very often. But I mean, the highest I've ever paid is 10 price to sales. And, Intermap's sitting at 7. So I'm definitely a little bit hesitant at this, 280 range. If I'm going to pay that much for a company, I have to be pretty convinced that it's going to absolutely crush it over the next little while. Now, in saying that, I really like Intermap. I think they have a lot of potential. I think their product has a lot of potential. They're on my top stocks list, and I think if they execute this company, this stock has a bright future. But I didn't like the recent financing, and honestly, for myself as a platform, I kind of would like to go find the next Intermap rather than look at 7 times price to sale. It's great if you're a shareholder, right? Congratulations, but it's definitely not like high on my list right now to dive in with all my money at this kind of valuation, if you catch my drift, right? But it's still good. Any hope for heavy? What the heck is heavy? What a terrible heavy. Helium Evolution Incorporated. Heavy. Never heard of this stock. Looks like it pumped up recently. $18 million market cap. Don't know what they do. They don't make money. It's like, these are always, pre-revenue speculative bets. What are they burning for cash, right? They're losing 3 cents per share trailing 12 months, but they've got quarters here where they're losing, 9 cents per share. So burning money, not making money, needing cash, needing more of your money as a retail investor. I bet if I go through all these news releases, I'm going to find debt and financing and convertible debentures basically all throughout here, where, it's not very good for long-term shareholders, and that's why. So, yeah, they've lost people a lot of money over the years. Very speculative stock. I don't know much about them, so, but it's not something that I look at. Look, I will cover one pre-revenue stock per year. That's all I'm allowed, and it has to be a top-quality pre-revenue stock. I got to put this down. This year, I've covered North Star Clean Technologies, Roof V. And the only reason that I'm bullish on this pre-revenue stock is because their completed facility is due to complete this summer. So I don't have to wait for a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years or excuses or delays while my money's sitting here with a company doing nothing and they're on a yacht somewhere in the Caribbean. The only reason I like North Star Clean Technologies and it's a pre-revenue is because there's going to be results soon. And if there isn't results soon, then I move away from the stock. So I am not very bullish on pre-revenue stocks. That's just not my thing, right? They're lottery tickets, and I think most of the time they're failed lottery tickets. If Gatekeeper wins over the city of Toronto, imagine if they could win over other cities like Vancouver and Montreal. Now we're getting excited. Let's get the first city down first, though. Win over Toronto, Gatekeeper, and then that's the potential, right? That's where the long-term shareholders, if they can win over Toronto, you can see where this company can go. Gatekeeper Systems, you can see where they can go in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's always hard to do, especially in the microcap space, right? It's so rare to be able to look at a stock and see transparency in the next 5 to 10 years of a microcap stock. But if Gatekeeper wins Toronto, then you almost have that pretty clear transparency because you have a proven business model that works. It's very profitable. That can go into a lot of different cities in North America. I mean, this was COVID. You can't look at this price. This is when I started covering Gatekeeper Systems. This was because they were getting pumped on YouTube, and that wasn't their fault. They didn't pay for this promotion or anything. They just got their share price ran up a little bit high because some people noticed them. They got on some trading groups and share price went all the way up to 85 cents, and it really shouldn't have. So, when it came down to the 50, 60, 70 cent level, I think that was fair for Gatekeeper, and it's returning there again. I think it's a fair price. And if you think that they're going to win the city of Toronto, then it's probably looking like a cheap price, right? Canadians do get cold and lonely up there over your 9 months of winter. Oh my, good marketing for Realbotix. Yeah, no kidding, eh? That's life is changing so quickly. Life is changing so quickly. Man, I feel old some days. I am 44 years old, or am I 45? I'm 44. And I am that rare generation that I can still remember a time before the internet, computers, and cell phones. And I'm right in that cusp because I grew up with internet, computers, and cell phones. I had a Nintendo when I was like, I think 11 or 12. I had my first cell phone when I was around 20, but I did have a time in my life where I did not have that stuff. And I'm thankful for it, but it's pretty rare. But man, things are moving so quickly right now. It's hard to keep up. When Realbotix makes boyfriends, then I will. They need to win over the female investors. I love it. Absolutely love it. Matrix back burner still until they see some improvement, looks like. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Matrix, right? And I don't know if I could actually bring this up, but, if you go if I need my actual account here. No, I didn't want that. Typically with Matrix, what I'm looking at here, if you look at the 1 year on it, if you even zoom out to like a 5 year on Matrix, right, you're really looking at 20,000 feet. They're starting to get as cheap, Matrix as cheap as they've ever been. And, from this price, they did make shareholders a lot of money until they did some stupid stuff, and then they lost it all for them again. So in theory, Matrix is heading into the same type of event. They're in a catalyst here for 2025. Either they do succeed and they do win some contracts and they do well. And if they can, then it's looking pretty significantly undervalued right now at this price, basically well below all of their moving averages. But I mean, they have lost a lot of trust and faith in shareholders. So I wonder how much that holds them back. So yeah, I agree. Like, none of these stocks are definite winners. There's always some what if speculation, a lot of hope, and company needs to execute. Yeah, right. Any thoughts on garbage stocks, Aduro or Leaf? No, thank you. Junior mining company. No, I steer clear, and I've steered clear without getting political. I haven't covered any junior miners for a long time, probably for 9 years. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Right. I hope a day comes when I can cover some junior miners. But for me, I've talked about this. I know a lot of people that invest in junior miners over the past 3, 4, 5 years. None of them have outperformed me, and they've had a lot more stress than I have. A lot of their stocks are a lot more like ADF Group, which are pretty volatile, right? In Canada, where I'm at, we just simply haven't had the legislation to be bullish on miners. The people that I know that have made money in mining stocks recently were Brazilian mining stocks and not Canadian, not American. Now, does that change in the United States over the next 4 years? Does Canada get an election this April and that gets a conservative government that's mining friendly and permits come quick and easy and interest rates are low and all of a sudden there's mines everywhere? Yes, I will probably cover some junior miners at that point, right? But right now and over the past couple of years, no, it's just I haven't seen more potential in the miners than than I have in any of my stocks, right? Wonderfi. Oh, this is a TSX listed stock, 25 cents, $160 million market cap. It has gone up recently and then gone down. That's always interesting. Let's see here. Financials look okay. Worth a look. Put it on my list. I mean, just a quick 5-second look on a live stream, but sure, that's worth looking at. How many more comments we got here? Look at how cheap HLF is, which insiders buying up shares in the past and beat on earnings, last earnings. HLF, never heard of them. That last one's pretty good, though. I'll definitely take a look at that. Herbalife. Is that what you're talking about? Herbalife, $5, 528 million US stock. This is typically not from my channel, not my niche. I don't mind New York Stock Exchange. These smaller US companies, though, really hard to invest in, really hard to research. And the other thing I'm worried about is this. If I'm going to go into a US stock, I'm looking to cancel it. I'm looking for stock that's got some momentum that I could trade before I finish researching it. I talk about this a lot, where I don't necessarily research a stock for 12 months before I decide to put $1 into it. I might decide to trade a stock first, and then as I do my research, I'll decide whether I'm still trading it or whether I want to become a buy and hold investor. And that kind of chart doesn't interest me too much right now. Wonder if we ever see a huge desalination company. Water will become scarce in the years to come. Yeah, there is one out there, isn't there? I used to cover one when I used to cover H2O Innovation. There was a desalination company out of the United States. Can't say I remember their name right now, but there is. The problem with it is low margin and boring. Desalination isn't like artificial intelligence types margins. And a lot of investors these days don't like lower margin stocks, and that was the problem with it. But it still did pretty well. CNHI is a vacuum truck competitor that may have tariff impacts despite a country not really on the USA administration radar. Let's see, CNHI. Is it this one, CNH Industrial? Not sure. Might have that one wrong. Equipment services, yeah, that might be it. Agricultural and construction equipment in North America. So yeah, that's very much it, probably, right? That's looking pretty nice, probably worth a look. Thanks, Paul. What is it? $14 billion market cap. Oh, it's too large for my channel, but yeah, it looks pretty good. Didn't you cover Thor on my old channel? Yep, covered a couple miners. Thor was one of them. That's a gold mining stock out of Africa. It's headquartered in Vancouver. I didn't mind Thor, but yeah, the African Gold Company. Yeah, that's the one. I did try a couple miners. I did make videos on a couple miners because people requested it. But I think I've made 2 or 3 out of the 150 videos I've made in the last couple years. I think I made 2 or maybe 3 videos on junior miners. And then their share price didn't do very well for a while. People didn't watch the video. And it was like, okay, I'm not making that mistake again. So, yeah, I did cover Thor. There was another one, CPC. It was a nickel company, I think. CPC rings a bell. Was another one I covered. I'm probably not going to be able to find it because I probably got the ticker wrong. CNC. Yeah, there it is right there. CNC, Canada Nickel Company, was another one that I covered. Would I have made money on that? No, right? I think I made a video on that probably somewhere in here, early 2023. It might have even been 2022. So again, yeah, I made a video on a couple mining stocks and they've done nothing. So what did Thor do? Because I made a video on Thor. I wonder if that one did well. Oh, I don't think it was Thor. THV. Man, I got too many tickers in my head. Thor Explorations. Was it? Thor Explorations. There we go. So that was another one I made a video on, right? Same thing, right? This is what I'm talking about. When did I make a video on it? I think in here. Might have been in here, right? So it's up today. If you waited 2 years, you maybe made 10% from my video. So again, it's a tough one for a YouTube channel for an investor to really get bullish on too many of these mining stocks, right? It's hit or miss. It's very much a lottery. And a couple of the ones that I've covered in the past did absolutely nothing. Do I think Anduril's new round of funding will boost Kraken like it did last time? No, probably not. I don't think so. Not unless somebody knows something I don't. That's the problem. We don't know what's going on, right? So, if somebody, large investor, thinks that Anduril or institutional investor thinks they're going to use this new round of funding to buy Kraken Robotics, then it will help. Share price will go back up. I mean, institutional investors were paying, $265 for Kraken Robotics not too long ago. And I mean, it's at $252 now. So if you bought today, you're paying less than the institutional investors. And that doesn't always work out, but they have more information than we do. Emo, yeah, a couple people have been talking about Emo. I think it's too late for me to get into this one at all. What do they do? Emerita Resource Company, natural resource company, engages in the acquisition, exploration, development of mineral properties in Spain. So yeah, see, it's not Canada, it's not the United States, it's in Spain. And so this is another one of those resource stocks that's not in North America that's a winner. And maybe that's the secret sauce, right? Get into junior miners, just don't get into North America junior miners. Look, I hope the day changes I hope it changes where the day changes, where miners change, and then maybe I'll get into some of them. But yeah, Emerita's running pretty good. Highliner Foods, right? And I don't know anything about that one right now. I'm starting to go brain dead. An hour and 15 minutes into the show. Maybe do a show discussing the stocks that will benefit from this tariff war with the states, probably the ones that also manufacture in the USA. Yeah, that might make a good video. Capitalize on some people's fear. That's a good idea. Thank you. I should do something like that. California Nanotechnology. There's even some Canadian companies. If you look at even NCI, like NTG Clarity Networks, the ticker NCCI that has been running lately. The funny thing is, shit, sorry, I got to bring up my other chart. Let's go to NTG Clarity. If you go to NTG Clarity Networks here and you look at the tariffs, when did the tariffs hit? This is another one, right? Somebody sold NTG Clarity Networks here. That was when Trump threatened tariffs, right? That's still in February, according to my chart. And somebody panic sold NTG Clarity Networks at $1.55 because it's just fear, panic. People don't think, right? Now it's at $2 less than 10 days later, right? So there is opportunity. I like having some cash around. And as much as people don't like Donald Trump, it's really working out in investors' favors in a lot of cases. If you have your favorite stocks, they're not going to be impacted by tariffs. You get these days where everybody just loses their mind, scared of the orange man, and they sell off their stocks at any price. There's massive opportunity in that. I mean, this is a company, NTG Clarity Networks, that's selling into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, getting paid in Saudi Riyal, converting that money it's pegged to the USD. 1 Riyal is worth 1 USD, and then converting it to Canadian cash. So there's absolutely no tariff threat. And in fact, when there's tariffs and the Canadian dollar declines in value, that's actually bullish for NTG Clarity Networks. And yet somebody went and sold there. That's insane. Like, what were you thinking, right? So yeah, it's a good idea to get a show or get a video going for something like that. Scandinavian microcaps. Oh man, I'm running out of time. In this live stream and in my time to research stocks. McCoy Global has been getting my attention lately. Any other drill baby drill service stocks that you like? Yeah, there's the main ones. So Enterprise Group, I've already showed you. McCoy Global, and then Source Energy Services. It's been volatile. It's down again recently. You kind of got to look at the long term. But if you're into drill baby drill, this is a company that produces frac sand, I believe, and sells that into the United States. And it's been volatile. You got to buy at the right time, and you got to look long term. But for me, Enterprise Group and McCoy Global, and then Source Energy Services Limited are the ones that I've researched and I like. IBC Advanced Alloys. Nope, never heard of them. IBC Advanced Alloys. Oh, it's actually a TSX Venture stock. It's amazing, you know, how much I do this, and every day I can still discover a new stock. I've still never learned them all. They sell specialty alloy products in China, the Netherlands, Japan, Canada. It offers various copper alloys, right? $9 million market cap, super tiny. Interesting, worth a look. A lot of revenue for. I was waiting to see a pre-revenue stock and giving you heck for it, but no, that's got a lot of revenue there. That's worth a look. I'll take a look. Thanks. That's enough for this guy. I'm burnt out. I'm an hour and 20 minutes into this. As always, appreciate your time. Go check out commonsenseinvesting.ca. That's my new website. I've got lists on there of good microcap investors. Let me know if you think somebody should be on that list. I will happily put them on. And go check out my Patreon Discord if you like researching these stocks, talking about these stocks. I do that every day, right? Morning and afternoon and in between. And all my research is in the Patreon. So go take a look at that. It's I think it's at $5.85 United States dollars per month right now. And as I get more people join, the price will go up. So a year from now, it's probably going to be more expensive than that. So yeah, I appreciate your time. Give me a thumbs up if you can. I'd really appreciate that. The website looks like that. And as always, thank you so much for watching Common Sense Investing. Good luck this week in the stock market.